Hello, everybody. Good evening. Welcome. Obviously, we will be starting at 7 o'clock. I just want to let you know a little bit. Um, we do have a chat feature enabled. We did find out that you do have to be logged in under the Learn account to be able to do that. So you may be able to use your child's Learn account in order to use the chat feature, or else I will be explaining another way that we can email and get that information, any questions you might have to us as well. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that. So again, thank you for joining us this evening. And we're looking forward to providing some good information for you. Once again, hello, everybody. We will get started here in a few minutes. I know people are logging on, so we appreciate your patience on that. We will get started probably right around 7:03 or so. Just a couple pieces of information. If you do want to use the chat feature through the YouTube Live, you will have to be logged into a Learn account. However, we do have another way where you can submit questions as well. So I'll discuss that once we get started here in just a second. On that front. So thank you for joining us this evening. And again, we will get started probably right around 7:03. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight as we are going to give some information, provide some answers and additional information regarding our return to campus and what we're looking at and what we're doing here at Westlake High School. This evening, we have a couple different ways where you can ask questions for us. We do ask that the questions wait till the end because we are providing a lot of information that should be able to assist. One way you could share your questions is through the YouTube chat feature. If you are having issues or difficulties with that, another way is by going to our Westlake High School homepage and then scrolling down, and we have a link right here where you can email us questions and then we can respond to those as well. So again, either through the YouTube chat feature or directly on our homepage right here in this fill out the online form, we'll get those questions as well and answer for you. We'll give it just about 2 more minutes here, let people join us, and then we will get started. So thank you. All right. Again, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully the link and everything is working well for everyone. If there are issues tonight, just so you're aware, we are recording this, so we will be posting it on our YouTube channel for folks to see as well. In addition, we will be communicating out on Friday. We do have some FAQs based on questions that have already been coming in earlier this week, so we will be sending out to all families as well. So again, you will have the ability to see this recording, or if there's others that are not able to join us tonight, they can watch that as well. And then we'll be sending out some FAQs on Friday. So we will get started. We are talking about our return to campus and what this looks like here at Westlake High School. I'm Jason Branham. I'm principal here at Westlake High School. This evening, we are offering Spanish translation as well. We will be doing that through a separate Zoom link. You can see the information there on the screen. So if you do need Spanish translation, Dr. Riza will help us with that. I'll introduce him at this time, and he can talk about that a little bit.
Good evening, parents. Again, I'm Ricardo Rice, Assistant Principal of Attendance here at Westlake High School. Thank you for joining us, and I'll go ahead and translate this information in Spanish. Buenas noches, padres de familia. Muchas gracias por acompañarnos. Mi nombre es Ricardo Raiza, subdirector de asistencia. En este momento si pueden conectarse a Zoom, yo voy a hacer la presentación en español. So, ahorita los espero en el Zoom link que está enfrente de ustedes y se pueden conectar en este momento. Muchas gracias. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Riza. We're going to give it just a minute here so folks can transition over as needed for our Spanish translation. So just give us 1 minute here and then we will proceed moving forward. Thank you. All right, so we will get started. Kind of our agenda for tonight. You know, sometimes these presentations, I know we can have a lot of slides and things like that. We did really try to keep this short and succinct and really provide direct information regarding these topics and where we are. Things that we're going to be looking at this evening. First of all, is our high school scheduling priorities. How do we build our master schedule? And what are those priorities that we really look at when we're building our master schedule? Also getting into some specific kind of data and information about our master schedule, not only where we were in August, but where we are now after the survey that came out earlier in October. Also kind of talk about our January start and how that looks and things that we're already doing and planning to make sure that that is smooth and successful for all of our students and families. Kind of compare what we're doing with local districts, see where we are in alignment with some of them as well. What's happening now, what we're doing right now, and what we actually started back on October 13th here at our site. And then again, some Q&A if there's questions at that time as well. So first of all, when we were looking at building our master schedule back in August, we really wanted to make sure that we were able to maximize our student enrollment in our classes. And in order to do that based on the cohorts. So we had obviously an A cohort for morning and a B cohort for afternoon, both in our blended learning model as well as our remote learning model. And we really tried to have about 15 students per cohort. And there were a lot of different reasons for that. But from a scheduling point of view, that was really important to us because we realized that that would allow us to have a fluid and smooth transition back to on-campus instruction, whenever that might be. And we did realize that there were a lot of unknowns at that time, quite frankly, and we wanted to be able to adapt and change as best as possible in August. What we realized fairly quickly is that during this master schedule building, there was a lot of data that came in with regards to our school site and the master schedule that made this goal or this original priority kind of difficult. And some of those things you can see here. Our current student enrollment is just under 2,200 kids. So we have 2,196 total students. Our master schedule and the way it's built with our current blended and remote models with our A and our B cohorts, we have a total of 889 courses or sections that we are looking at and using, again, broken up over that A and B cohort. From that initial response in August, we had a total of 463 students that chose remote and 1,733 students that chose blended. So when we're looking at those remote and blended numbers and options, they do have to fall into those courses. And of all of our students, the students' requests totaled 16,332 student course requests. So how do we get to that number? What does that look like a little bit? So on average, our students will have 6 to 7 classes per student. There are some exceptions. Some students have 5, some students have 8, depending on some of our co-curriculars and different things of that as well. And then when you look at those numbers related to remote and blended, we try to, again, adhere to that 15 students per cohort number. And we found out rather quickly that we had some issues there. And one of those issues was that students, and especially at the high school level, trying to place students in courses that are required for graduation, but also courses that students wanted at the high school level, especially with our A and B cohorts and our remote and blended, proved to be quite challenging. And so in order to accommodate our students and really make sure that they were in their required courses, we had to actually go above some caps, and we also had to create what's called combo classes. And those classes are classes in which we had blended and remote students. And I'll give you an example of a blended or combo class. And an example of that could be one of our singletons, such as one of our higher band classes. So one of our band classes where they have to audition for it, that would be a singleton, and it would be a combo class because we only offer one of those sections. So whenever you hear the terminology of singleton, it's when we have a class that's only offered once in our entire schedule. So in order to allow students to be able to access those courses, regardless of if they're in the blended or remote learning models, we had to bring in some of those combo classes. So really our priority shifted. And when we shifted our priority, we went from, okay, making sure that we were pure with our blended and remote at 30 total or 15 per cohort. And we really transitioned to the fact that students need their classes. Students need the classes that they are required to be in for graduation. And also a lot of times the ones that they've set up throughout their high school career. So really, we did have a shift in priorities. Even with that being said, we limited the number of combo classes and really tried to make it as tight as possible so that we could still adjust as needed given the uncertain state of where we were going to be moving forward. So where kind of are we from a master schedule point on a daily basis in today? So each and every day we offer approximately 362 sections. So what that means is every day we hold 2 class periods. So it could be 4 and 5 or 6 and 4. Today was 5 and 6. So within that, we have 362 sections that are offered every day. Again, our enrollment, as you can see, and remote and blended numbers are the same as what we had before. Total of 2,196 students. 463 of them are in remote right now, and 1,733 are in the blended. So that's where we are currently. Based on the survey that we gave in October, 137 of our current blended students stated that they wanted to go remote as of that survey. After the survey deadline, we've had another 32 families that have stated that they want to shift from blended to remote as well. So in reality, we had 169 students that wanted to shift from blended to remote. And then we had 63 students that informed us that they would like to shift from remote to blended. So obviously with our master schedule and the number of sections that we're looking at, that posed a challenge that we were not sure how we were going to be able to overcome for our second quarter, or periods 4, 5, and 6. And the reason that was such a challenge for us was because when you look at a student's schedule with periods 4, 5, and 6, as of October 23rd, our students had already finished 3 of their classes for the entire first semester. So what that means is that when we were looking at making these approximately 600 course request changes, we could only adjust between blended and remote sections within only periods 4, 5, and 6. And based on our singletons and where some of these schedules or sections were offered in our master schedule, it created challenges where many students would not be able to access their required courses. And I'll give you an example kind of what that looks like. So here's an example of a student that wanted to transition from blended to remote. So they signed up in August for blended, but at this current time wanted to stay remote for second quarter. So in the original blended request, this particular student's schedule was built, and Kim Honors was offered for this student, for example, period 5. So in that period 5, it works because that was the original blended request. However, when that student says that I want to stay remote for the second quarter, the problem is that our only remote section of chemistry honors is period 2. And the reason that we only have one section of remote chemistry honors is, as you can see from the prior slides, the number of students that selected remote was much lower than the number that selected blended. So therefore, we didn't have as many remote options, even if we made some of those shifts. And so for this particular student, because chemistry honors was only offered period 2 remotely, and the period 2 classes have already ended, this means that this change would prevent this student from being able to access chemistry honors, which is a required class, obviously, for graduation. So we had a large number of situations like this. So when we received information from that family survey, we really went through by hand every single student that was requesting a change and looking at how we could make these schedules work for our students. That included looking at possibly shifting sections within that 4, 5, and 6 range. It looked at making sections that were currently blended into remote and vice versa. And quite frankly, we didn't have the ability to make those changes based on the data and requests that came in from that October survey and within the constraints of our current master schedule, because again, we can only adjust or manipulate 3 of the students' 6 classes, which is this periods 4, 5, and 6 classes. So I hope that example, and again, we could have given a lot of examples, but that's one example that I think really spells out some of the concerns that we had, because again, our priority has to be students having access to classes that they are required to be in. So we really had to make sure that was happening. So January return. So this is something that, a lot of people are talking about and we've seen a lot of discussion about. So, why January? Why are we really looking at the January return? Well, one, with our master schedule, I've had people ask, well, what makes January different than now? In January, our entire master schedule now is in play. And what that means is we can adjust the student's whole schedule. So that example I just gave you for the chemistry honors, I could actually make that change. We can make the change so that student now could go to that period 2 chemistry honors class. It also allows us to adjust our master schedule and sections across the board and not just the periods 4, 5, and 6. So that flexibility to be able to shift at what we call a clean break at semester was really critical for us. The quarter break is not a clean break because, again, we had 3 classes that students had already completed. So that was one, really the big issue that we were facing and why we were confident that come January, the master schedule will be in such a place that we are able to adjust and meet the needs of our students moving forward with that master schedule. And again, some of the fallout from being able to adjust our full master schedule is this will allow students to stay enrolled in and complete their current courses with the current teacher. We didn't have to touch any of those things. And some people may say, well, your quarter just started. And I agree, our quarter did just start on Monday, the 26th. However, students have been able to see teachers and things like that. And maybe it's teachers they've had in the past or things like that. So we didn't have to adjust any of that. And again, really minimizing the disruptions to the student academic schedule. That was really critical for us. And really we didn't want to put students in the position of having to choose or change classes. And quite frankly, not being able to give them some of their required classes. So that was really important for us and why the January return will allow us to do that moving forward. Kind of some of the local districts, just so people are aware. For us, again, for high schools, we have a January 19th date of return for all of our students. I'm going to talk about in the next slide. We all have already actually had some students back on campus, and we are looking to expand that a little bit as well. And you can see all the other districts, Moore Park is the one exception, but they are falling in line with starting of their second semester. So although the dates are different for Oak Park or Ojai, Oxnard, Simi, and Ventura, it does fall in line with the start of their second semester. Again, for many of the reasons we talked about already in terms of that master schedule and that continuity within their schedules as well. So what's happening now? So, we have been working really hard since the start of school and all the way, because we realize that this new way of learning for our students is not only new for our students, but also for our families and our teachers and our staff overall. We are really working on providing ongoing support for the social and emotional needs of our students. Our counselors have open Zooms at lunchtime for students to be able to pop into. I know they've also been scheduling meetings, Zoom meetings with our counselors. We've had academic support as well through our Twilight Academies, as well as our academic support centers. This next quarter, we've updated our SMORE page for the academic support, as we actually have teacher support for our periods 4 and 6 classes in science, in math, and in English, based on some flexibility that we had there. So we're excited about those options. And then in addition, we're looking at starting some groups and some other things to help meet those social emotional needs of our students here. In addition, we have begun identifying more opportunities to have small groups of students on our campus. We started with some of our special education students back on October 13th. We've been able to transition or include some of our English learner students as well. That started back on the 19th of October. We've started to have some of our after school activities and co-curriculars and athletics on campus as well. And then I actually met with staff today, and we're starting to look at a pilot type program. And this pilot type program, pretty excited about. This is something where if the teachers are able and want to, they are going to be providing opportunities for students to come back on campus before that January 19th date. It could be based on one period of their schedule or multiple periods, and we're kind of working out those details, and we'll have more information moving forward on that. But this is going to be a way where we can get students back on campus sooner. We'll be able to test out a lot of our safety protocols, our flow patterns, and different things that also allow our teachers to test out what they're going to do when students fully return on January 19th as well. So the pilot information we are excited about, and you should be hearing some information from some of our teachers coming out shortly, and we'll be sending that out too. In terms of a pilot start date, we're still working out those details. I think the earliest we would start would be like a November 9th date is kind of what we're looking at the earliest. And again, this would not be for all classes. This is voluntary, and we would be working to see how we can maximize that, but also support everybody involved through those pilots. So again, we will be sending out more information on that one. Also on Friday, we're going to be sending out some communication to our families, again, to really make sure that we have our master schedule locked in place and as tight as possible for our second semester. We are going to be sending out a learning model confirmation to all of our families. This Friday, we are asking that everything be submitted by November 6th. And the reason that we're doing this is because I received a lot of communication from families that after the survey went out at the beginning of October, that we had a number of families that said, I want to stay remote now, but I want to come back in January. So to make sure that we have the most accurate data and information possible from our families, we want to have this final confirmation so that as we're building this master schedule for semester 2, we're making sure that we're able to accommodate and meet all the needs. Because if we have requests that come in at the last minute and things like that, that's what really puts us in a bind with regards to the master schedule and making sure that we're able to maximize everything that the students need. In addition to that communication on Friday, we will be sending out a link to this webinar that we did tonight, as well as our FAQ page. And the FAQ page is really comprehensive with questions that have been coming in, not only from our school site, but from around the district regarding the high school reopening. So I hope that that is a really good way for families to be able to look at some of those common questions and get some of those answers that I know people have been asking for moving forward. And some additional information on here. Our school website is a great resource for more information about schedules, and also our counseling page about how to reach out and ask questions if you're unsure about those things as well. I do see in the chat real quick too, there's a question about clubs, and I apologize if I skipped over that. Yes, we are starting our clubs, and a lot of our clubs started back in September and now in October. Those are being held virtually right now. So we're working on increasing that communication as well. If you go to our school website under the activities page, you will see a full list of all of our clubs, as well as the advisors. So students that are interested in joining those clubs or participating can email those advisors and get those Zoom links and information for all of our clubs as well. So again, with regards to clubs, that is on our school web page under the activities tab. And then our counselors, they're continuing to work to ensure students are on track, obviously, for graduation, are in their required classes, working on college entrance information. I know right now, especially early, information is going out for a number of our students with that November 1st deadline. So they're working on that. We're looking at our A through G course completion percentages, credit completions, and really seeing where students are to, again, make sure that they're on track from that, from the academic point of view with their schedules, and making sure that these changes in schedules don't hinder any students or have any unintended consequences when it comes to that part. All right, so that's kind of the meat of the presentation and the information there. I am going to kind of look and see if there's any big concepts or questions that have come in at this point. So bear with me just one second. One of the questions is, will we get the same teacher to go when we go back on campus for semester 2? So I think that's referring to the teachers that we have now. We're going to make absolutely every effort to make that happen, and that is our goal. With that being said, the data that we get back from our families with that selection information that's going to go out, that will dictate a lot of it. So based on that comes back, we may have to make some minor adjustments to teachers and classes, but we are not anticipating a lot of those. A lot of the changes that we feel that will need to be made are maybe periods, so it might be a different period, or if it switches from a remote to blended or blended to remote section. But again, we're not really looking at changing in terms of the teacher part of it. Comment in here too about Q1 classes and Q3. According to our current schedule, Q1 classes, which were the period 1, 2, and 3 classes, those will resume during Q3 at the start of second semester. And then our current classes of periods 4, 5, and 6 would resume at the start of Q4. But again, we do, in terms of the master schedule part, we feel it's important that we are able to adjust all 6 of those classes to help, again, meet the needs of our students and our families based on the learning model that they want, and again, to ensure that they're able to stay in all of their required classes and the ones that they have. Let's see. Okay. And again, I think, again, the big point, just reading a couple comments in there, but one of the big points is, we have an obligation to really meet the needs of all of our students and families. And we try to do that, even obviously in non-COVID years, but even more in these COVID years, is really meeting the needs and the request as much as we are able for everybody. Because at the end of the day, we do realize and take it to heart the fact that, everything that's going on in our world right now and the health pandemic, these are our kids' high school years, and the time that they're in it is going. And so we want to make it as good as possible and provide as many opportunities for all of our students as possible. So we're really really, that's one of our main tasks when we're building the master schedule and really looking at that. In terms of survey, there's a question of, will there be another survey before January? Again, the survey that, or the selection form that we're going to be sending out this week will be our final one. So it will be really important that people answer that with, their intention of what's going to happen in January. I realize there's a lot of unknowns that could come up between now and then, but we do have to get some data in a timely manner so that we can build that schedule in a way, again, to serve all the needs of our students. So really do feel that that is important for us. Seniors, I see a comment in here about seniors. I'll tell you, for our seniors in particular, last year was big, in terms of how we had to do things and some of the changes we had to make. We realized that this year is just as important for our seniors as well. And some of those things that we did last year, in terms of yard signs and some different things like that, we are looking and planning right now to see what kind of special recognitions we can start to have for our seniors as we go into semester 2 here as well. Because we do realize that, again, for our seniors, this is their last year on our campus, and that is very important to us. So we'll be communicating some more information about that as well. All right. And then the one last, and I see some others in here, but in terms of if we need to make changes after that time or after the 11/6 deadline, we really, that needs to be where we kind of make that decision if there's extenuating circumstances. Again, as we always do, we will try to accommodate as best as possible. But again, we can't make any guarantees at that point. So we really do need to have, again, data and information as early as possible, because when we're building our master schedule in a typical year, and I know this isn't a typical year, but in a typical year, the building of that master schedule really starts in April and it concludes in August. So when you look at that time frame and how we build that, having that data and having that information is really important. So if there's extenuating circumstances, then you would reach out to your counselor and we would see what we could accommodate. But it's important that we get that final and accurate data on that part. All right. So I think that those are some of the big topics that are in here. And there's some things that are coming up too that I think in our FAQ that'll help answer. Let me see. We did try to communicate really clearly. There's a comment in here about making sure that it's clear that this is the last, that we really need this final answer to be in there. We do believe it is pretty clear in our communication in the form that we're asking parents to fill out in that. All right, so I think those are a lot of the big questions that are there. And again, if there's additional questions, and let me, in case people didn't get this in the beginning, if you do have additional questions on our school website here, if you just coneousd.org/WHS, if you were to scroll down here, there is a link right here where if you have a question, you can email that, and then we will get back to you in a timely fashion on that as well. And from the social emotional front, since we're here, I think it's really important for our students and families that I know are going through a lot. These two, our social emotional support and resources, as well as our wellness room, have been great assets for our families and our students as well. Okay. All right. Well, I hope this helped answer a lot of your questions. I do, and one last thing I'll touch on is I do see there's some questions here in terms of AP classes. I know a lot of our teachers are providing extra support and things like that, but we do have our Twilight classes as well, and our Twilight supports that are being offered to help with those classes as well. So really encourage folks, and in our weekly warrior update this week, we have a link to our SMORE page that lists all of those extra supports that we have for students as well. So please, take a look at that. and have your students utilize that support. We continue to have our teachers try to promote those different supports that we're offering through the Canvas pages as well, in order to have more students attend, because we do have people waiting and eager to help support our students on that front as well. All right, so that's, again, the topics that we wanted to talk about tonight were our kind of return to campus and what that looks like. We will have more information coming out and regarding our safety plans and the flow around campus and things like that. Planning on making a little video to help with that and talk about some of our specific safety protocols as well, and what we expect of students and staff and visitors moving forward. So we will be communicating that out as well as we move forward. So we will do that in a future, maybe webinar like this, or a future communication as well. So thank you guys so much for joining us this evening. I hope that the information was useful and helpful for you. And again, please reach out if you have any questions. Thank you so much.